I have stories after story of really life-changing stories, that children that are on, Ventolin pumps and the parents, did a number of strategies. It's not just UV, right? It's
Yeah.
quality filtration, quality ventilation, but the UV was definitely part of that solution. And it's changed lives. It really has.
Hola, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reliable HVACR podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, like, comment. If you're listening to this over on the podcast, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever it is, it's a bit available on all platforms. Please leave us a 5-star review to help us get out to more people. I love doing this because it is good conversations with good people. Anybody is welcome. If you guys ever want to be a guest on this show, if you guys listen or watch any of my content, go ahead and message me. Come on, tell your story. That's what it's about. If there's any sponsors that want to reach out and support the show, go ahead and also reach out to me. My email's posted everywhere. ReliableHVACR956@gmail.com is how you can get a hold of me. Speaking of sponsors, today's episode is brought to you by my favorite CRM, Jobber. If you guys want to use a software that helps us boost our business, whether it's invoicing, quoting, scheduling, keeping track of your team, price lists, our maintenance plan is in there. Now they help you with marketing and running campaigns through emails, all that stuff. And you can talk to your customer through texting in the customer hub. They can request work. You never have to pick up the phone. They can actually request work online through text. You can tell them that you're on the way. All the stuff that you would expect from a professional CRM. If you guys want a free trial and discount, go to getjobber.com/reliable HVACR. Also, VETO Pro Pack, the best tool bags in the game. I know people tell me the first thing is always the price. Let me tell you, other brands that I used to get at the supply house never lasted me. So in that short amount of time, I was buying several of those bags when I could just buy one VETO Pro Pack tool bag. And if you want to go check them out, go to vetopropack.com. You can also get them at any supply house or place that you buy equipment. They usually have VETO Pro Pack, and they just came out with the MB3 Blackout, which I am super excited for because I actually had a hand in some major design in that bag, and I hope to continue to work with that. But I use the MB3 Blackout as my favorite. I also use the Wheelers. I use a lot of their tote bags. I even have something in my van that just holds bottles and miscellaneous things, and it's made by them too. They have a bag for every scenario, so you won't be disappointed. Go check out VETO Pro Pack. And if you go to their website, go to the customer profile, you'll find me in there. You can learn a little bit more about me, and you'll probably see a lot of these YouTubers and people on Instagram that you might watch in that section. And a big thanks to all the sponsors that make this show possible and moving forward. You'll hear more from Local HQ Marketing, NAVIEN, and Diversitech throughout the show. And don't forget that I have another podcast/live stream every Thursday night, the HVAC Nights. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It's me, Jake, and Curtis. You might know them already. And we just talk shop about our work week and life stuff. It gets crazy. It gets uncensored. It's a fun time. So come check us out live every Thursday on YouTube. And it's available on all podcast platforms later that week. If you ever want to keep up to date with anything that I use, whether it's tool recommendations, Camel City Mill socks have been really great for me, and the Huxley work pants. I have discounts for a lot of these things that I use. You can find them in my website, reliablehvacr.net. So like I said, tool link, recommendations, discounts. I got merch there. You can request stickers. I will have my arm sleeves up for sale soon, so make sure to keep an eye out there. And if you just remember to go to the website, you'll always keep up to date with everything. And really quick, I just want to invite you guys to our Discord. We made an HVAC Nights Discord server. You'll find it in the link below or on reliablehvacr.net, hvacnights.com. You can find it there. I'll leave a link. Everybody is welcome to join. I'm still learning it. If you guys know anything about Discord, help me out, help me learn, tell me what to add to it. And we can go from there. So stuff will be added as I figure it out. But like I said, you can talk about your hobbies, sports, shop talk, anything in the HVAC world that you want to discuss or ask a question on, specific troubleshooting or help with things. I want to add like manuals and little codes and tips and tricks and stuff like that. I want all of that in that community. So go check out our Discord, join it today, and let's get some conversations going. On today's episode, we have Aaron Engel from FreshAirUV, which is also a part of Diversitech, and we'll be going over a lot of IAQ, indoor air quality. Now, whether you believe in the whole UV system products and all that, I mean, that's up to you, but he's going to go over what makes their products different. And personally, what I usually base my decisions off of is people that actually use these products and see a difference, or people that were skeptical and then tried it out, and what their experience was with it. So we'll go over all of that, kind of the myths behind some of that stuff. Like, is it just to sell, upsell, or does it actually do something? So I'll leave all of their information in the description. You can go check out Aaron and FreshAirUV, Diversitech. Like I said, they have a lot of stuff under their umbrella as far as Diversitech. So you guys can go check them out and see, Packard, FreshAirUV, Master Care. They do anything from like mini split mounting, a lot of the pads for your AC units, cleaners and parts, and tools from Hillmore and stuff like that. So like I said, go check out Diversitech and check out the FreshAirUV product line if you guys are interested. If anything, I hope you guys just learn a little bit something, as I did after this episode. And like I said, make your own decisions on any of that. And stay tuned. I might try some of these UV products in their lineup and see if it actually helps with some of the situations that I have here with, my family, allergies and stuff like that. So enjoy the episode. Hey man, so I actually saw you on the news a few years ago. So you've been talking about indoor air quality for a while now. So how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, that was a crazy time a few years ago when COVID hit. We were, UV technology was the technology to have, and yeah, we were on ABC News and Good Morning America. It was nuts.
Oh, I missed the Good Morning America one. I had seen the other one. Um, so just really quick before we get into it, can you introduce yourself and what you do over at Diversitech and Fresh Air?
Sure. So, Aaron Engel, I'm the product line leader for indoor air quality and condensate management. I'm part of the FreshAirUV team prior to the acquisition with Diversitech. So, vice president of business development for FreshAirUV. And then when we moved and we joined the Diversitech family, I became the product line leader for both indoor air quality, which is a FreshAirUV business, as well as Assurity, which is the condensate management side of Diversitech.
Oh, so that's how that worked. Because like I always tell people, like as far as like Diversitech, there's so many different brands and things under the umbrella of them, and it's like Packard, Fresh Air, and all these other companies. So you've been with that company since before even Diversitech.
Yeah, so I'll be celebrating my 10-year anniversary with FreshAirUV, and 3 of those 7 years now is under the Diversitech umbrella. So Diversitech really is a one-stop provider for all types of HVAC solutions for our wholesalers and contractors. So you have everything from condensate management, equipment mounting, electrical, chemicals, consumables, IAQ, and even thermostats. So even though it's a
Yeah.
Diversitech umbrella, we have the different product categories and brands that fall below it.
Yeah, it's funny because I would tell people, like, just look in your van. Like, there probably half the stuff you have in there is from Diversitech. And I had that conversation with the counter guy because I was looking for a part, and I'm like, it's Packard, but it's Diversitech. And he's like, no. And then we got it. He brought it out and everything. He's like, you're right. It is Diversitech. I'm like, yeah, they do everything.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's part of what Diversitech brings to our wholesalers is that you're going to have something from DT. So why
yeah.
not take advantage of putting on an AppGo X for FreshAirUV on your DT order, and this way it makes life easy, and it makes shipping easy and just doing business easy.
So I think today we're gonna talk a lot about UV, indoor air quality, and that kind of stuff. So how important is it for somebody to kind of look into this stuff? Because like you said, like a few years ago, it was all the hype, the craze, because people were so scared of this whole virus thing, right? Like how can we you know, purify the air, or just, everything in general, right? Everybody was throwing sanitizer on everything, wiping down everything, when before that wasn't like a thought. So how important do you think it is now? And should we be looking into that more as far as like residential type applications and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, I've been in UV for 25 years. And, in the last 10 years, certainly long before the pandemic, we saw very strong year over year growth, 20%, 25%. Essentially, it's because we're building everything tight, right? We're not bringing enough fresh air to dilute those concentrations of biologicals and chemicals that are trapped within the envelope of the home or the building. So we understand that the issues that we're facing in the last 25 years is very different than the issues we faced 50 years ago. 50 years ago, you didn't need an IAQ product. You did not need a FreshAirUV UV system because our buildings and homes were loose, and we're naturally bringing in outside air
Well,
and diluting.
isn't that funny? Because like the better we've gotten at that part of our HVAC, or the industry in general, like we've gotten better at tightness. It's actually causing this whole other issue that we have now.
Oh, 100%. And there's a couple standards. The well building standard is a great example of that because, we have green and LEED that's really trying to improve, reduce your carbon footprint, improve efficiency, reduce energy consumption. But in doing so, it's at the detriment of the occupant's health. So now you have other standards now that are saying, wait a second, it's all great and good that we're looking to reduce our carbon footprint and decarbonize, but at the same time, we have to do something for the health and well-being of the occupants. So going back to the whole UV story, IAQ is really top of mind in the last 20 years because we want to do something to help improve the air quality. Studies show that the air inside of our homes are up to 100 times more polluted than outside. And some would argue that the reason why over the last 20 years there's been such a rise in allergy and asthma-related illnesses is because we're insulating ourselves, right? We're not bringing in enough fresh air. And to do so, we're conditioning our air, we're heating and cooling it, and we don't want to open our windows and doors and lose it to outside. So
yeah, it's like your parents yelling at you, like stop leaving the door open. You're letting all the AC out to the neighborhood and stuff.
Exactly, that's exactly it. So we're trying to really, save energy, but at the same time, it's like putting a plastic bag over your head and breathing that same air over and over again because that's what we're doing on a daily basis. So now we get back to your question that it's the air quality issue and UV technology has really been gaining momentum over the last 20 years. And then when COVID happened in 2020, it just kind of, re-energized the whole conversation. And now there was a name that was associated with the possible issue as far as IAQ. And over the last few decades, there's always been this, every few years, there was anthrax, there was H1N1, swine avian flu, there was, of course, mold, and there was Ebola even. And then COVID was the last one, right? And that brought all that awareness and everybody wanted an IQ product to help improve the air quality in their homes and buildings. And funny enough, the FDA put out a pre-clearance authorization for healthcare providers and first line responders to use UV light to disinfect their N95s and their PPE. Remember, there was a shortage of PPE back at the beginning of the pandemic, so they were using UV light. So UV was brought into a very unique position earlier on in the pandemic because at FreshAirUV side, we were busy not only disinfecting, of course, and sizing for commercial buildings and hospitals and providing UV for residential homes, but we were also addressing doctors and ambulance technicians and first line responders, giving them guidance on how to use our UV lights that they're buying from wholesale and disinfecting their N95s, right? So it was really, really crazy. But on the other side of that, UV just really fell into a really great place. And those that know really do understand that UV is a great technology to address viruses and bacteria and mold. And now on the other side, of course, of the pandemic, with that behind us, that awareness is there right now. People know that our air quality is there's an issue, and they also know that IAQ and other technologies are great tools and strategies used to mitigate poor air quality. So now the awareness is there. The urgency isn't. No one needs a UV light today. But what the pandemic did do is it highlighted the issues that we had in our buildings and our homes, and how we could use technology like this to improve the air quality on a daily basis, not because of COVID, just because of the nature of our homes and buildings and how tight it is.
This podcast is presented by LOKAL. LOKAL works tirelessly to help HVAC contractors rank higher on Google. They use an attack methodology to make sure that contractors dominate their local service areas and increase their market share and generate higher revenue. Reach out to LOKAL at localhq.com/reliable. Mention me or the Reliable HVACR podcast, and you'll get 2 months of SEO for free. Yeah, like you said, it's just because, you know, the tightness of the system. Because even myself, like, I have fans. I've tried different things. We have the fans on in all around the house, right? Because if you have them off, you get stagnant air. Like, I'm always about like trying to, airflow, filtration, trying to get the better air through the house. And then I got a air purification little fan and all this other stuff because I actually have a son that developed pet allergies. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody has pets. Here there's a cat. He's allergic to the cat. So we've tried to mitigate it as best as we could. And of course, you go to your filter first, right? You get a good filter your house out. But like you said, it's just looping. So the UV light technology, I guess, is when you are looping that air over and over and over, you're actually treating it, because you guys have like a certain, like, I guess you call it like a dosage on these different lamps and UV lights.
Yeah. So UV is based on an intensity and a time function, and that gives you your dosage. And I like to equate it to a sunburn or the sun. The sun produces UV light, just like our units produce UV light. The sun produces various frequencies of UV light, one of which is the 254 nanometer wavelength that we produce. We're never subjected to that wavelength on the planet. You and I are never subjected to it because the atmosphere absorbs the the light. The ozone layer absorbs the U254 nanometer. But that being said, a sunburn can be caused by UVA and UVB. We know about UVA and UVB. And one sunburn won't be an issue for anybody, but someone who continually abuses the sun with enough sunburn has the accumulation of enough sunburns to the point of mutation, which is skin cancer. And UV is the same thing.
That's a big deal for us working out, because I work on rooftops strictly. I only do commercial, so I make sure I'm covered head to toe, because like you said, that UV is dangerous even at that level that we have it at, and you guys have that concentrated certain wavelength that you put in the system for bacteria and growth.
Exactly. So when you look at how dangerous we perceive UVA and UVB to be, and you're a perfect example of that you're protecting yourselves. In actuality, A and B have little germicidal power in comparison to the 254 nanometer that we produce. So when you put a UV system in your home and you talk about recirculation, that's a really important component of UV technology, because we're not looking at a one-pass neutralization, right? We're not putting a UV system in your home and expect there's 100% makeup air. So we're taking the volume of air in your home, passing it through the UV light, goes outside, and you're bringing in 100% makeup air. That doesn't happen. Your home has a fan. It's recirculating the air 4 to 6 times an hour on average. So every time the air passes through the UV field, it's like getting that second, third, fourth, fifth sunburn, and eventually you'll pass it enough times that you will neutralize what's in the air. So it works as a bypass, and recirculation and air movement is really your best friend when you're using UV-based technologies to disinfect.
Yeah, and you're talking about, like, I work on hospitals too, so like all of that stuff was very important, especially a few years ago, and it just, I guess it made people more aware during that time, that this could work, because I'm sure you understand, people are skeptical on this stuff. Some people call it a scam. Some people are like, you're just trying to upsell something to a customer. But that stuff, like you said, you use it in hospitals. They were using it to disinfect things, and then it trickled down to homes. And then I saw those. They were trying to put a UV light in everything. You could disinfect your phones and disinfect like different little machines built for that kind of stuff. So UV has a use. Now, for anybody that is I guess against it or anything like that, is there any Because some people say that it changes a chemical in the air or anything like that. Like there might be byproducts. Is there anything that you guys do to kind of mitigate that and make sure that doesn't happen in the home?
Yeah, sure. So when they talk about that, it's usually because it's an ozone producing wavelength. So I mentioned 254 nanometer. 254 nanometers, the germicidal UVC wavelength, and it doesn't change any airborne chemistry. Essentially, what it does is it scrambles the DNA and RNA of the microorganism. It doesn't have any effect on chemicals or odors. I like to use the analogy of a sweater or a jacket with a zipper. That if you take a hammer and you strike a zipper very hard and you bend or break the teeth of the zipper, you can no longer zip up the jacket. Well, UVC light does exactly that to the DNA and RNA of the microorganism. When we talk about the change in airborne chemistry, it's when you have manufacturers that use other wavelengths of light. Ozone at 185 nanometers is a perfect example of that. It puts oxidation, ozone into the living space, and that O3, that oxygen, has the opportunity to change the molecular structure of other chemicals, changing the chemistry, and then you could have the possibility of aldehydes and other byproducts. So we don't do that. We're using specifically the 254 nanometer, and there's a specific UL validation called UL 2998, which validates if your product is zero ozone emitting, and we seeked out that validation 5 years ago. So we're very, very happy that we are completely safe. We do not change any byproducts, so that airborne chemistry issue is not part of the FreshAirUV component. With that said, yeah, there were a lot of companies out there that jumped on the bandwagon. We saw immediately after the pandemic, you had a lot of consumer type products that are promoting UV light disinfection for phones and keys and tablets. And it's not to say that they don't work, but a lot of manufacturers are putting like a UV LED light, one LED light, and promote that it's disinfecting. No, there's real science behind it. What we do with our types of UV lamp systems, UV's been used for well over 100 years. Municipal water treatment centers use UV light to disinfect the water. So we know what these dosages are for neutralization for any number of biological targets. If you ask me what is the dosage, the microwatt dosage for Legionella, it's about 3,000 to 5,000 microwatts. If it's Aspergillus niger, a mold that grows typically in a coil or drain pan, at 330,000 microwatts. COVID, SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes the COVID-19 disease, that's 3,700 microwatts. So we all understand what those dosages are, and as long as you meet those requirements, you're able to do what you need to do. But to those who are naysayers, well, UV's proven, it's validated. There's hundreds of peer-reviewed research to show that UV light is an effective means to disinfect and neutralize. But to your point, when you do get into those opportunistic companies that jumped on the bandwagon and promoting these grandiose claims that they could kill this and kill that, you got to be skeptical. You have to know what you're carrying, what you're using.
No, yeah, because it's just another little addition to your filtration, anything like that. You're using it in line with a good filter that's going to help you out, and kind of just like you said, it passes through so many times. You guys have it to a certain dosage. Is there like how do you size, like how many different products do you have for like a residential system? Like, is it sized by tonnage? Is it sized by, like, how do you guys size those and make sure you have the right dosage?
So for residential, it's very easy. Most of our units are up to, good for up to 5 tons or 4,000 square feet. So anything bigger than that, you would have 2 systems. So you'd pop one in each system. So residential is really quite easy because of the whole idea of recirculation. Leave the fan on, let the fan run, let the UV-based product do what it needs to do over the period of a couple of hours. When we move into commercial applications, that becomes a little bit more technical. We have calculation software that we use to calculate specific dosages. So we will use, if let's say you're working a commercial application, we'll take duct dimensions, we'll take CFM or feet per minute, we'll take coil dimensions, air handler size, duct run, and those UV systems could be much larger in nature than a residential system. It could be positioned parallel to airflow to maximize exposure time. And when we use our software, we're able to calculate what those real-time dosage neutralization rates will be on one pass or multiple passes, such as 6 passes. So there is a measurable amount of science that goes into sizing the right UV system. We also don't want to live in a bubble either. We don't want to live in a completely sterile environment. The reason why the residential is not nearly as far as the sizing is as important is because we don't want to kill everything. We just want to make sure that because most of us now, to my earlier point, are insulating ourselves like never before. And those contaminants are continually rising and rising and rising. And we're not opening our doors, and we're not opening our windows, and we're not diluting it. That's where those UV systems on a continual basis does a great job of saying, hey, we know the filter is doing what the filter has to do. The biologicals, the odors, the VOCs are passing through that filter like sand through a tennis racket. We need another strategy to address that side of things. And that's where, in our case, our APCO X Ultra are ideal, because it does take care of what the filter doesn't on a continual, right? It's all about a continual basis.
If you haven't seen it yet, NAVIEN has entered the HVAC space in a big way with the new NPF hydro furnace. This hydronic forced air furnace delivers industry-leading variable capacity operation from 15 to 100% in both natural and propane configurations. You can learn more at navieninc.com. I have heard nothing but high regards for GREE themselves. GREE offers not only just ductless mini splits that you might know them for, whether it's single zone or multi-zone. GREE has the GREE Flex and the Multi Pro for whole home and building cooling, so you guys can actually get systems for your house and stuff like that. They always have updated system documentation and live video trainings for contractors. They help you with your installations and make it as seamless as possible. You can follow them on Instagram and YouTube at GREE Comfort, and you'll get access to all their educational video content. I'll leave that linked below. Yeah, and I was actually wondering if that stuff is, or if you had anything for commercial use, because I do commercial strictly, and I think I had seen one on the news, on that news that I was talking about, like you talked about, or with somebody that ran a restaurant and they put it in their restaurant to, get better air quality. And
Yeah, sure.
we see on my side in the especially in the restaurants, you see a lot of growth, a lot of different things, bacteria growing, and just it gets pretty nasty. So like, again, we can't put one in every building. I wish we could, just to kind of mitigate that kind of stuff, because food, like in a restaurant, you have food, you have all these vegetables, all this, like, because I do walk-in, I know it's not air quality, but I do walk-in coolers and stuff, and they have onions and tomatoes and all this stuff, and that stuff in the air creates all these chemicals. It's acidic. It eats away at the evaporator and all that. So like, there's different things that you deal with on a restaurant that, like, it's going to be pretty unhealthy, I would assume. So like, having that option of on the commercial side is really cool.
Yeah, so we have quite a broad line of commercial products, and the products that we manufacture are both for coil mount and duct mount. We have units for ice machines. As you can imagine, you have microbial load that's growing, and in ice machines, and UV is a great strategy to address that. But essentially, for commercial, the big savings there is really keeping the coil clean and healthy. And as you can imagine, when you have a coil that even becomes slightly fouled right after commissioning, there is a huge drop in performance, right? You have heat transfer loss, static pressure, wear and tear, and then you come in and you pressure wash or you clean the coil, and it's a vicious cycle. So having, you said one, just throw in a lamp. Well, it could be really that easy, that if the facility owner really wants to improve equipment efficiency and air quality, you really do throw in a lamp into their air handling unit or their rooftop, their RTU, and you are ideally maximizing efficiency and on a continual basis disinfecting the air as the air circulates. Now, if you're doing an operating room, if you're doing a critical care application, well, you need a little bit more UV light than just one lamp. But essentially, to your point, it will do a phenomenal job of, again, UV light is really positioned as a layered strategy, just like ventilation and filtration, right? And since the pandemic, that's what a lot of regulatory agencies really do promote, is the fact that there's no silver bullet, right? It's just part of a layered strategy. So you have filtration. Filters take care of particles, right? Doesn't do very much for biologicals, VOCs, and so forth. Ventilation, great for diluting. UV light, great for disinfecting. So it's really just layering on those strategies that will maximize either efficiency or indoor air quality for the occupants. And to your point, we do a lot in fruits and produce. And believe it or not, when you hear the old saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch, it's because that one bad apple usually off gases and it causes a chemical reaction or hormonal reaction with the other apples. So UV light is a great means to actually treat the air to make sure that that one bad apple doesn't actually cause the other bad apples to go bad. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
there's a lot of use.
a lot of product the way I see it. And even here at the house, like you have a bag of potatoes, a bag of whatever produce, one goes bad, then the whole thing starts to go bad. So that's the whole thing. Yeah, and like just me, because I feel so, and like I only work at these restaurants for like an hour or two at a time, right? I get a call, I go out there, I service it, and when I open up those AC units, right? I try to be as I try not to say it in front of their customers, but I know I pull them aside. I'm like, you got some growth here, you got some nasty stuff going on, and it's gonna take me a long time to clean it out, right? I got to disassemble the whole unit, clean out the drain pan, clean out all the panels, get all that stuff off of there, and then the coil is usually caked with
Yeah.
different
Yes.
things, and then a lot of it's like just black growing on there. So I tell them like, maintenance is always important, but like if you can prevent it, like you said, why not? Because every time I go out there, I'm like, man, like these poor people are in that building all day, having to breathe that in. Can't be healthy.
No, it cannot be. And it could be something as simple as putting a UV light in there and it'll take care of it. Like, that's the nice thing about UV light. When you talk about airborne disinfection, it's a little bit more challenging simply because the air is moving. You have very short exposure time, right? When you deal with coil disinfection and drain pan disinfection and even just the walls or the blower mold growing inside the equipment, that's easy for UV light because it's just shining on it indefinitely. So it doesn't take very long over the course of an hour, 2 hours, a few days, that at that point now, whatever is in that air handling unit is now neutralized. It's disinfected. Now it's a question of either being blown off or washed out as the coil, gets wet and so forth. But yeah, it would be very surprising to a lot of building owners and building managers if they knew how much money they could save by having a
Oh
UV
yeah.
lamp system installed in their air handler.
Do these? So then, you said you deal with condensates too, right? Does this help with your drains and all that kind of stuff too?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Especially when you have stagnant drain pan and you have
Yeah.
the UV light shining on it indefinitely. Of course, you have neutralizers and so forth. But at the end of the day, UV light is that wavelength that will break down those microbials
Because I have
and
like you said, like
improve.
saving money. I have a customer that has like 18 stores, and they get us on a maintenance plan. Like we're out there every 6 months, and before the 6 months are up, I have one specifically because that unit just runs 24/7. It's for the kitchen. And no matter what, I've tried the sprays, I've tried like the tablets and stuff, like it always gets backed up and gets full of like really gross, stuff. So I'm like, I don't know if you need us out here sooner. I don't know if we need something like a UV light in there just to help them out. Cause a lot of the places I work at, like they have a lot of, like I said, produce, like stuff that's acidic, but
Mhm.
also where they have these AC units, they're making pizzas or what is it? Fried chicken, all that
Yes,
dough, all that
yes,
stuff,
yes,
yeast,
100%, hundred
they
percent.
gets those get the worst. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, you're like almost baking a bread inside the equipment. So I would definitely recommend popping a couple of lamps in there. For any other reason, do a trial, right? We could do a
Yeah.
trial. We're big on that at FreshAirUV. We've done a lot of really large scale commercial applications over our 22 years in business. We do have obviously a very strong residential line, but we have just as strong commercial line, and a lot of the commercial products were developed because of necessity, right? Because customers saw issues in the field. The ice UV is a perfect example of that. Our company is based in South Florida, as you can imagine, a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture, a lot of growth in all kinds of cooling situations. Ice machine's one of them.
Oh
Ductless
yeah.
mini. We have UV systems for ductless mini splits. Why? Because of condensation. Because it's just so humid. So a
Yeah, I was
lot
gonna
of our
ask you about the mini.
yeah,
You guys have a mini split application because those get disgusting, and I actually have one to install, and that's one of the things that I'm not looking forward to is the maintenance on it.
Yeah, so ideally, where we see the issue is where the air exits the ductless, it condenses on the blower wheel, the
Yeah.
plastics, and then you have a contamination that is just really unsettling. It gets blown off and introduced into the home or the building. LEDs are fantastic, but LEDs do not have the UV output that would be comparable to a conventional UVC light. So we don't really promote our LED for ductless or LED disinfection, for the most part, as an air treatment system. We use it more for close target disinfection. So in our case, it's a 40-inch LED ribbon. You cut the length, you adhere it near the blower, near the shroud, near the exit, and it just keeps continually shining on that area, making sure that you don't have that growth. And it's incredible the difference between having you can have two systems side by side,
Yeah.
one with the LED light, one without, and it's incredible the difference. And then when you factor in the preventative maintenance, the cleaning, after a few years, plastics might get brittle. Disassembly is probably, you still have to clean, but you
Yeah.
don't have to clean to the same extent, right? You don't have to spend as much time. So yeah, our LEDs are very, very interesting, and it's a great way to kind of bring more value to a ductless unit. There's so much you could do to a ductless. So if you're able to maintain proper air quality and efficiency simply because you're keeping it clean, not that you're treating the air, the end user would benefit in many ways.
Yeah, I think on that one, because like I said, I'm gonna be putting one in soon, and I have just seen people online, like when they go to one that's been running for, I don't know, a few months, a year, whatever, and those things are just covered in all the growth, the black stuff, all the different things. And I was like, do I really want to put one in and deal with that? So I might have to give that LED, that UV LED a try, because like you said, it's not really about the air on that, because it's a mini split, but to keep it from getting that bad is a big, like you said, a big difference.
100%, and it works really well, and customers do enjoy it. They enjoy presenting the value to the customer, and in the back of their head, they're like, great, when I have to come back in a year from now and do that preventative cleaning, I'm not going to have to sit there and lose my mind doing it. So
Oh, I know, because maintenance is one of the things I hate doing. So if we can, and that's why I tell customers, if you want to get us out here pretty often, because like I'm used to doing hospital work. They want me there every month. So like those units are always pretty clean. Yeah, don't have to do much. So like the more often you do it, the better. But also if you have some stuff like a UV that kind of prevents it from getting super nasty, it's good for the tech too, because you have less of that to deal with. Because when I see one or I see something like that, I have to cover up. I have like gloves, I have everything, and I'm just like ready. I have a face shield that I pull up. I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to work on this kind of stuff. But if we can prevent that, I would love that.
oh yeah, yeah, and that's that really is at the core what UV light is really good at. It's preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
It's making sure the equipment is running well, and at the end of the day, we know the environment that the equipment is in and what causes these kinds of issues. And if you could have something that is like funny enough, the filter is really designed to protect the equipment. That's why we have filters, right? Filters are, if we didn't have a filter, the equipment would essentially get gummed up and
Yeah.
fail, right? But because we're removing particles that would otherwise breathe, it become an IAQ solution, but it's really there for the equipment. And UV is very much the same way. It really is a champion for the equipment, making sure the equipment is efficient and resilient. And sometimes we lose sight of that because we talk about the benefits to the end user and the homeowner, but there really is true dollars and cents and efficiency benefit to the equipment.
So these UV lamps, like the ones that you would put in the residential, you pop it in. What are the lamp lives? Because you just have to go in there every so often to change out the lamp. But how long do those last?
So we have three different kinds of lamps, and they differ in anatomy. There's 1 year lamps, 2 year lamps, and 3 year lamps. The 1 year lamp is a very basic lamp. It looks like what you would imagine a UV lamp would look like. This 2 year lamp and 3 year lamp look very similar. It's actually a lamp that's encapsulated. It's a lamp that has another quartz sleeve. It looks like a tube over the lamp. And the
Okay.
reason for that is it keeps the lamp. UV lamps love being warm, and because we're in air movement, the moving air or the cold air off the coil has the opportunity to cool down the lamp, and when that happens, the output drops. So our 2 year and 3 year lamps have special sleeves and special getters that work as filters to filter out the impurities in the gas as the lamp ages. So there's some really cool tweaks and strategies we could use to improve lamp life. So most of our premium products do have a 2 and 3 year lamp life on the residential side.
I've never installed one. So like installing these, what kind of power do they run off of? And it's just a continuous light, right? It's always going to be on.
Yeah, so it's a 24-volt operation, comes with a transformer, so you have different voltage options.
Okay.
And yeah, the real benefit here is having it on continuously because we do have different models designed for different applications, but the most common application is definitely mounting it over the evaporator coil, making sure that the coil is always seeing that UV light. So even if there's no air movement, the coil will benefit from having disinfection, the disinfecting lighting on it. And of course, as the air ramps up, as the air circulates, in our case, the APCO product, which has the UV light and the lifetime activated carbon catalyst, it looks like a wing on the other side of the lamp, that takes care of the odors and the VOC. So there is that odor and VOC component to it, but that really is taking advantage of when the fan is moving. That's when that portion of the UV system is benefited.
So you got odor, that helps with the odors too, because
Yeah.
you go into houses, and we have it here too. We have a dog and a cat, so like odors are a big thing. So if you go into someone's house, because I talk to guys that do some crazy residential calls, they have pets everywhere. They have all this other stuff. People that have like candles, incense, all this like all these things that can harm not only the AC unit but the air quality. So you guys have all that kind of controlled with it, not controlled, but like it helps with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, the consumers spend billions, tens of billions of dollars a year on perfumes and masking agents and air fresheners,
Yeah.
and the truth of the matter is that contractors have at their disposal these wonderful products that are available that are better than any of these masking agents. They're designed to not put anything into the air. At its core, what I manufacture are air treatment systems that are designed to take out, right? We want to take out impurities, take out pollutants from the air, not put additives or masking agents into the air or perfumes or VOCs or anything like that. So yeah, we do address both sides of the coin. It's funny because, at its core, our UV systems are definitely, disinfection systems. They're killers, if lack of a better term, but no one notices for the most part less bacteria or viruses in the air. But hey, if you cook and you burn fish, everyone is going crazy, right? So it really is the odor side that people really notice. Hey, I don't smell my pets or the cigarette smoker in my home or the cooking smell or the solvents and so forth. So that's usually what customers gravitate to when they see and perceive a difference in the air quality. But it's often lost that, hey, you have to remind them, you do know that the biologicals are also being addressed as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interest that I had into this now, because I do want to end up, at least monitoring and then figuring out what I need. And I've talked to a friend of mine that, because we've talked, and he's even like, he was skeptical on it before. And he's like, no, I got one in my house. And he's like, my kids used to get sick a lot. He's like, they get colds, they get allergies, all this other stuff. And he's like, I put one in, and he's like, I have to admit they have not been as sick or really sick since then, since putting one of these UV lights in. So that's what I base mine off of, right? It's like, because when I brought up earlier that some people talk about the chemicals, the byproducts, all that, and they want to tell you like, look elsewhere before you, or instead of getting a UV light, look elsewhere on your filtration. Of course, you got to do your research. You got to monitor. If you can monitor your air quality, even better. If you can actually get a system that monitors it. But like the actual application that I see is like from my friends that tell me like once they put it in, the proof is there that they've had better results with their kids and themselves, not getting sick or not getting, not having issues. I think he has a kid that had asthma, and it helped him with that too. So like, those are the testimonials that I look at, because those are actually in the field, actually using it, and they see a difference.
100%. The most common testimonial we get at FreshAirUV is, I haven't slept this well in 20 years. And I say this all the time. studies show that the air inside of our homes and buildings is directly correlated to the condition of the HVAC system. So if you have mold and microbial load and biofilm that gets introduced into the home, we don't know why we wake up congested, a tickle in our throat, a slight cough, a runny nose, a malaise, whatever the case may be. So that UV light, that's one of the reasons why I'm such a champion for coil disinfection, because of course, our units are designed for duct mount. They could be installed in the supply, the return, treat the air. But if you could at all possible mount it in an orientation that you can maximize both the air and the coil disinfection, then you're able to address the health and well-being of the equipment. That's huge. So to your point, my son has allergies. When I moved into this house, the old adage, the shoemaker has no shoes. Well, I moved into this house. I had other things to do. I did not install my APCO into my unit, right? And it was rolling into the summer. My kid had horrible allergies, like horrible. And I said to myself, what am I? So he slept one night at his grandparents, and I said, you know what? What am I doing? I grabbed one of my APCOs, and I just installed it. I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my kid, right? I just installed it, and I just kind of did my own little experiment. And he came back from his grandparents on Sunday, and it was just so much better, like so much better. And I said, hey, you know what? Guess what I did? Which I should have done 4 months ago. But anyway, what it is, I've been doing it long enough to hear all these stories, and I've personally experienced it. It does make a huge difference, especially if you have an underlying issue. If you do have allergies, if you do have pets, there is a perceivable difference in air quality when you use these types of products.
I mean, obviously you want to do other things to address all that stuff, but like a UV light, like you said, you can see a difference when you put it in. So that's why I've been looking into one. So I might, like I said, I feel like kind of like your situation where HVAC techs are the worst about working on their own equipment. So I will get around to it. I just haven't yet. And my son developed like pet allergies, and then he has really bad just allergies in general now. I've never had to deal with that. So like that was kind of new to me. So like I come from the age old, like I guess I just had a good immunity system. I never used to really get sick. And the only time I get sick now is if one of my kids gets sick and, they're on me and cough on me and whatever. So that's when I get sick now. But moving around, I did notice, because I've moved a couple of times in the past like decade. So in one house, I would always wake up feeling sick, or not sick, but like, sneezing, allergy type, symptoms. Then I moved and I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like that anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's strange. Right. So then you start thinking like, was it the HVAC system? Was it just, really unhealthy in there? And you never know. So yeah, it's really cool to hear that kind of testimonial. And even you've gone through it, I'm going through it with my kid as far as the allergies. I'm like, I need to put one in and kind of see if it helps him out any, because I mean, it gets really bad sometimes.
It's I mean, I have stories after story of really life-changing stories, children that are on, Ventolin pumps, and the parents, did a number of strategies. It's not just UV, right? It's quality filtration, quality ventilation, but the UV was definitely part of that solution. And it's changed lives. It really has. I mean, at the end of the day, we're so fortunate to have all these advancements at our disposal, and we have many, many years of validation behind us. And when I first started off in the industry, I was trying to convince contractors and engineers and wholesalers that light has the ability to neutralize and disinfect. You start off the segment by saying there's a lot of naysayers, but you know what? It's funny that it's very rare that I have to really, convince somebody that UV light it works. So I have to sometimes convince why our UV system is better than our competitors' UV system. But oftentimes it's understood that, hey, it's maybe not be the silver bullet, as I mentioned. It can't do everything for everybody, but as a nice layered strategy to complement filters, right? And that's a big part of our message, right? A filter takes care. If you looked at a cross section of contaminants that we breathe, filters address 35% of what's in the air. That's what they address. 65% of what's in the air, what you and I breathe, those pollutants, those viruses, the bacteria, the mold, the odors, the VOCs, they pass right through that filter. And that's where the UV technology comes to play. So it's not that UV takes the place of filters or filters takes the place of UV. It's really part of a complete IAQ solution. So filters take care of 1/3 of what's in the air. The UV technology takes care of the other 2/3. Now you're doing the most you could possibly do for yourself and for your customers.
You don't know, or you don't realize your system could be the issue. The air that you're breathing in your house, especially if you're just home all day, right? You're home on the weekends, you're home after work, you're home, right? So like that's where you are most of the time, and that could be the issue, and you might need to look into some sort of air filtration, indoor air quality, solution. That's kind of what you need to look at. That's the APCO.
Yeah, this is the APCO X.
Is that the one that goes into? Is that the residential application?
So yeah, so this is the APCO X. We have actually a new version called the APCO X Ultra, essentially the same thing, and we have a smaller version called the APCO One, but they're all very much similar in design and function. And I talked about the UVC light. Well, that's the UVC light here. When I talked about the 3 years, that's the encapsulated lamp that I mentioned, right? You can kind of see it looks a little bit different than a conventional UV light. And if you look even closer, you'll see a ring in there. That's a getter. So that actually filters out the impurities in the gas as the lamp ages. So essentially, you have a unit that's mounted over the evaporator coil. And we do have a version that has 2 lamps. So this is the APCO X single, but there is the APCO X dual. So if by chance there's not enough room to mount this over the evaporator coil, we have the secondary lamp, just a remote lamp with a magnet that you can mount over the coil. This way you get coil disinfection. You can mount this in the return of the supply, wherever you want. So it's very flexible. So you have the UVC light. And then this here is this is actually our Evercarbon. This is actually what makes APCO. This is actually activated carbon that's infused with titanium dioxide.
That's what I was going to ask you about. You guys have that to kind of help, like you said, with is that what helps with the byproducts and all that?
Yes. So what it is here is that you have the UVC light, that's the 254 non-ozone generating. And then you have the activated carbon catalyst. You can kind of see how it, you can see the light. It's it's a mesh. It's a grid. That's what it is. It's actually got enough surface. This is the equivalent surface area of 14 football fields. I know it's hard to believe, but activated carbon has an amazing amount of volumetric surface area. So the story here is that this activated carbon is actually infused with titanium dioxide. There's titanium dioxide, infused inside of that. As the activated carbon soaks up and absorbs the odors, the VOCs, the cooking smells, the cigarette smoke, the UVC light reacts with the titanium dioxide in there, and it breaks down those chemicals, odors, and VOCs, and it releases it as H2O and CO2. That's what the UV light titanium catalyst does.
Okay, so that's what makes you different, because that's the APCO.
That's the APCO. So what you have here is you have lifetime. So this never has to be replaced. That's a lifetime activated carbon catalyst. And the UV light in this case is replaced every 3 years. It's mounted, you have LED lights. So this will notify you when it's time to replace the lamp. And this is mounted hopefully over the coil if you can. And this way you get the best of both worlds. You get the coil disinfection and you get the air disinfection. And it's all done with this one unit. And this plays really well with filters. That's the whole concept here, right?
And then that thing does it tell the customer when it's due?
So there is, the new APCO X Ultra, which I don't have here, does have the whole box lights up. So it's more of a frosted box than this one here, and it will notify you when it's time to replace the lamp. It's all blue, and then at the end of 3 years, it turns to red, and it starts flashing, notifying the installer and the homeowner that it's time to replace the lamp. Here we just have one little LED light, so it's not as in your face as our newest Ultra, but the product is still very, very similar. And the Ultra is brand new. So just
but they both have indicators basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I think I'd seen the other one that the whole thing flashed, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yes. You can't miss it. You want to make sure, the unfortunate part of this is that the UV light itself can light for many, many years. It could last for 10 years. But the invisible wavelength, the 254 nanometer wavelength, does decrease with age. So after 3 years, it's time to replace with a new lamp, even though the lamp will still be functioning. It's still going to be on. So
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Getting technicians and homeowners to say, hey, you used the unit for 2 or 3 years. Now you're on your 4th year. It's time to replace the lamp. Well, why do you have to replace it? It's still on. Yes, it's on. But the invisible wavelength has decreased to the point that you should be replacing it.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, that's what I was kind of curious about too, because I was like, does the lamp just give out, or what is it? Okay.
So we did win the in our world at the AHR Expo, the ASHRAE show. There is an award that's given out every year. It's an innovation award, and we won it in 2011 when we first introduced APCO to the market. And in 2019, we released the APCO X. That's this one over here. So this is new as of 2019. And then this year, we released APCO X Ultra. And there's a couple of
Oh,
other variants of APCO as well. We have our own new APCO One. So APCO is definitely the probably the best means to complement the filter, as I mentioned, simply because we have these different versions that will neutralize and address odors. And again, we're not putting any additives, we're not putting any ozone, we're not changing any airborne chemistry, and it's a simple installation. It's not terribly difficult.
yeah.
We want it to be an installer doing it, of course. We don't want homeowners, cutting holes in their ductwork. But at the end of the day, we do make it very, very. It's a very refined product, one that is easily mounted in the equipment itself.
Well, I guess I mean that, like I said earlier, the main concern I kept hearing from like other guys in the HVAC field was the chemicals or the change in the chemistry or anything like that. So with anything that I've used, any company that I look into, I do appreciate the companies that differentiate themselves, because you're not just sticking a UV lamp in there. You have the means to make it safe and do other uh, purification along with the UV lamp. It's not just the lamp that goes in. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't want to keep you too long. It's been almost an
No
hour
worries.
here, and
Yeah,
I
no.
appreciate you for coming on. So were you doing anything before with your tenure with Fresh Air? Were you doing anything in the trades?
Yeah, well, I mean, Fresh Air. So I was at a UV company before Fresh Air. So I was at a UV manufacturer in Montreal for 16 years, and then I
Oh
moved
wow.
from that company to Fresh Air and Diversitech. So I've been in the industry for 25 years, and before I got into IAQ, I was working for a software company that was marketing software to HVAC wholesalers. So I've been in the HVAC industry in one way or another for I guess 26, 27 years at this point, but definitely the indoor air quality side is the one that's obviously close to my heart. And I do manage the condensate business as well at Diversitech under the Assurity brand. And I'm pretty active with ASHRAE. I'm on a number of committees there. I'm also the vice chair of the ultraviolet lamp committee for ASHRAE. So,
Oh, okay.
I try to stay on top of whatever it is that's going on. And there's a lot of really amazing, interesting initiatives that are moving forward with through ASHRAE on UV technology. So
So you've been around UV for a long time, and you know everything there is to know about UV.
I think I could still be surprised from time to time, but yeah, I've been doing UV for 25 years. So
Okay.
it's like I said in the late 90s when I would give my presentations on UV light to contractors and engineers, it would just be like just blank face. It would just be like.
Yeah. Well,
eh,
I feel like it's still like I think the whole COVID thing is what kind of turned some people around. It's people don't realize it. I guess you know.
It's true. You're right. You're right. And I mean, for me, I think, wow, from my perspective, it's mainstay. It hit mainstream, but in all reality, it's still a very much a niche technology, and it's still relatively new. I guess it's like the best kept secret in my
It
mind, right?
it's
So,
just one of those things. Cause like you had your, like I mentioned earlier, your kid went through allergies, and my kid's going through allergies. My whole thing was when my friends, like I said, one of them told me, "Hey, I never believed in it, but it night and day difference with my kids." I was like, "Okay." And then that one video that I need to look up, I need to find out what it was, but horrible experience. It was like a couple, and the husband was having a horrible, he was feeling horrible, really sick, all this other stuff, and it was the HVAC system, and he had to put in something like a UV light, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
and instantly changed or kind of helped them get better. Those are the things where I'm like, okay, like I never realized it, but hearing about it, seeing people like actually like, no, this actually works, is what got me into looking into it. So I'll get around to it.
All right.
I'm really bad about my own equipment.
Well, you know what? You know what? It's I mean, what is an allergy, right? What is an allergy? Is something that affects us, that our body tries to defend itself, right? And then
Yeah.
you have symptoms of an issue, right? And if there is something that's biological nature, there's something in your HVAC system, there's something that's being recirculated or blowing off, and it, you don't might not necessarily smell it, but it's there, it affects you, right? And that's one of the reasons why I think we've been so successful and why customers enjoy using it, is because there might be something in the air, in the equipment, that is affecting them, and UV is a great way to address that. And then ultimately we hopefully feel better as a result of it.
I think the whole issue, just because like how I deal with it on commercial, especially with the unit being on the roof, if the customer doesn't see it, it's like out of sight, out of mind. They don't think
Good
about it.
point. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then, like lately with technology, I will take video or photo and be like, you need to see this. So
Yeah.
a lot of like sometimes you can show them what's going on, but a lot of times it's just not visible. I mean, you can't see what's in the air. You don't know. And like doing this episode, I hope it makes it or people aware of the indoor air quality in your home, in the commercial sites, out and about. Like I hope some people are more aware of this.
100%. 100%.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you for taking the time and coming out and sitting down, talking indoor air quality.
Adrian, happy to do it, and I appreciate everything you bring to your audience and obviously your customers. So, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I know somebody because some people know you. They like when I said I was having Diversitech on, and they're like, "Oh, is it Aaron?" And I guess you've been around long enough for people to be, that's the guy we go to for indoor air quality. And they had suggested some questions and this and that. So I was like, I need to gather. Maybe another time we'll do like a Q&A type of deal, and we can address some of those concerns.
Yeah, I would love it. Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it. Everybody watching and listening, I appreciate you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.